Hi guys. Hello. Hi. Oh, Theo, you have a new profile picture. Cool. So much brighter. I like it. Hi, David. Well, hello. Well, hello to you too. Uh, so I'm in Chicago and it's cold. It's really, really cold. I came here in like literally bike shorts. Hi, Scooter, and it's kind of wait till everyone gets here. I mean, I will, but hi, Praxis. Hi, Jillian. Hi, Veronica. Hi, Kat. Hi, everyone. Hello. Oi. Hi, Jason. Yeah, I mean, no, so it's not windy at all, but it's like much colder than it is in New York. And I came here for like dressed, hi, Barb, for very New York weather. Like, I came here in bike shorts, quite literally, and like a little, and like a little, I don't even know, like it's like a sweater, but it's kind of like a very, it's like it has holes all over it. It's just sort of like a very loose knit sweater. And um and so I borrowed a hoodie from Lena. And yeah, and so I'm cold. Very, very cold. I also have to get up at the crack of dawn tomorrow because my appointment at the embassy is at 10:40 a.m. and Lena leaves for work at 7 a.m. And I need to print out a bunch of stuff at the office, so I'm gonna leave with her, and I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go with her at 7. So I gotta wake up at like 6:15. Привет, Philadelphia. Hi, Dave. No, I've never been to Madison, Wisconsin, but I've been to Chicago a lot of times before. It's just I haven't been in a while, and I miss Chicago. I'm gonna go take some photos at the Bean tomorrow because every time I'm here, I take a picture at the Bean. And I used to have like a whole compilation of pictures near the Bean, but now I only have a few because my old phone was stolen and it wasn't synced and yada yada yada. Hi, Cheryl. Yeah, everyone in this household wakes up pretty early, so I'm gonna have to adjust to it. Which, if you know me, you know I don't wake up early. Yes, I am Scooter. Hi, Walter. Hi. So yeah, I was showing Sasha and Lena my like my videos and stuff, and they were Sasha was laughing at all of my troll videos. It's like very much his format of like jokes. So yeah, it's kind of nice. Also, I had some Ukrainian food. I had plov, and then Lena made and then after plov, Lena made moussaka. I'm starting to think you actually slept. No, I did not. Well, no, I did take a nap. Actually, I did take a nap. I took a nap from like 5 to 6:15. Then Lena woke me up and was like, "No, you're not gonna sleep at night. Come on, get up. Also, dinner time and news time." And so we were watching the news and waiting for Sasha to get home from work. Mm, yeah. Привіт, Дмитро. Hi, Christina. Hi, hello. So yeah, so it was nice. It was fun. Also, I got my nails done today, and like these are hearts, and they're hearts, like Ukrainian colors, hearts. Hi, Jen. And yeah, I mean, I posted a video about it because like, okay, can we just like talk about the fact that my ticket to Chicago was $122. My manicure in Chicago was $55. So that's like about 170, right? Or like almost $180 for the ticket and the manicure together. In New York City, before the tip, it's $120 for just the nails. And then the tip is like $20. So it's 140. So I quite literally, for almost the same amount, can go to Chicago for 3 days and get my nails done. Yeah, funsies. Thank you, Truthful. Hi, John. Hi, Ken. But yeah, I was quite literally shook because I was like, wait, I never thought about it this way, but I could literally fly to Chicago, spend like 3 days with family, and also get my nails done. Thank you, Truthful. I was like, maybe it's worth it to just like fly to Chicago sometimes to get your nails done. I don't think this is the bougiest thing anyone has ever said. Like, oh, where have you done your nails? Oh, I flew to Chicago to do them. So crazy. But yeah. And there was an episode of Friends playing in the nail salon while I was getting it done. And I haven't seen Friends in so long, and it was like one of the seasons where Rachel got pregnant and had to tell Ross. So it was like the good one too. I don't work at the embassy. I'm here for an embassy visit because I need to because I need to renew my passport. But I don't work at the embassy. I don't. I don't work at the embassy. Um, okay, Norway, Britain donate micro drones to Ukraine. Voted for the speech of the President Zelensky at its meeting in video format. Okay, so let me see actually, because I usually prefer this other news source here. Oh my gosh. Why does it have? Oh, it's because I didn't read yesterday from here. I prefer this other news source, so I'm gonna. Yeah, no. I'm here for personal reasons, not for work reasons or anything like that. I don't work at the embassy, but I do need to get a passport at the embassy. Okay, I think I will start on the news. I have a friend, Jason Willis. Jason says, I have a friend that flies to Chicago for his Botox because it's half off for New York. Yeah, I wholeheartedly understand that. Hi, Lauren. But so yeah, okay, let me start in the news. I will start in the news today quite quite fast because, well, I need to go to sleep. And I need to go to sleep, and I also need to, like, yeah, it's just, Hi, G. Thank you so much. Okay, Lithuania suggests asking Russians about their attitude to the war in Ukraine when entering EU countries. Hi, Kay. Oh my gosh, so good to see you. Good morning. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Lithuania explained that a border guard has the right to ask, do you support the war in Ukraine? Who does Crimea belong to? Thank you, Kay. If a person says that in his opinion Crimea is not occupied, it can be assumed that his admission does not correspond to the interests of national security. So that's, yeah, I think that like the Crimea one is actually much better to ask than do you support the war in Ukraine, because I find that they usually crack on Crimea. In New York, the famous Brighton Beach intersection has now been given a new name in honor of Ukraine and will be known as the Ukrainian Way. Ukrainian ambassador to the United States, Oksana Markarova, announced this on Facebook. So now when you go to Brighton Beach, it already says Ukrainian Way right as you get off the train. So when you go to this super Russian populated neighborhood, when you get off the train, it says Ukrainian Way. Which personally, love it. Love it. Switzerland will help Ukrainian milk producers located in war regions. Thank you, Kay. In war-torn regions. For this, Ukraine will receive 2.5 million Swiss francs, about $2.7 million. This was reported by the Ministry of Agrarian Policy and Food of Ukraine. On Independence Day of Ukraine, Pope Francis made a special appeal for peace between Ukraine and Russia. Once again, I urge you to pray for peace from the Lord for the beloved Ukrainian people who have been suffering from the horrors of war for 6 months today. Pope Francis said in the Vatican Hall of Paul V after the Paul VI after the Catechism on Old Age, Death and Resurrection of the Body. The invaders continue to organize a trial of captured Ukrainian defenders in occupied Mariupol. According to the advisor to the mayor of Mariupol, Petro Andrushenko, at the moment, the date of the start of the trial of the Ukrainian military remains unknown. So I posted a video today when I was at the airport. Hi, Bea. So I posted a video today on my page about Azov. So yesterday when I was trying to stay awake, I wasn't going to sleep last night because I had to be at the airport at like 4:30 to make it to my flight. That was at 6. And if I were to sleep, I just simply would not have, like, I can't sleep for just 2 hours. Like, it's not, that's not, doesn't work for me. So I wasn't going to go to sleep. And in order to keep myself awake, because I was incredibly tired, I needed to like do something. So I started watching interviews with the soldiers of Azov regiment that were evacuated from Azovstal, from captivity, like the people who lost their limbs in combat, like mostly people who served in Mariupol. And I know Azov. Thank you, Rosalind. Like, of course, I know that Azov soldiers, hi Juju, are incredible. And I know that they have held the defense of Mariupol. We all know that they have held the besieged Azovstal steel plant for an incredibly long time. And we all know what tremendous job they have done. But what we don't know is, at least I didn't, like, I've never really listened to such at length interviews with them. And I've never really heard how they feel about like what they do, right? And what I was astonished by is that all of these soldiers were talking about death and fear of death like it doesn't exist. First of all, in Ukraine we call them cyborgs because they're very effective, but I also think they're cyborgs because of how they are psychologically trained. Those guys, all of them, like all of the interviewees except for 2 that I've watched, which are about 20 that I've watched yesterday, they were all talking about the captivity, about tortures, about like everything that had happened to them that was so traumatizing, but they weren't talking about it in like a traumatized manner. They were talking about it in a very like matter of the fact manner, and like, no, not even like emotions, but it was like but it was rather like, it's not that they didn't have any emotions about it, they did, but it's like they were mostly like even joking about it. And I don't even, and not like in a defense mechanism way, but sort of in like a look at my like adventures kind of way, right? So one of them, when the interviewer asked him about death, he was like, what do you mean? It's my job. Dying for my country is my job. They were sort of like talking about it. They were like, we know what we're going for. We knew that when we were going to Mariupol, it was a one-way ticket. The fact that we made it out of there is something we didn't expect. He said that they full force understood that they need to lay down their lives in order to not let Russian troops get to Kyiv. Also, yes, Azov Media. Azov Media is the channel on YouTube that's like the Azov Regiment channel that basically like that plays these interviews. It's the official channel from Azov Battalion, and they were all saying sort of like, it was genuinely insane to listen to them because it's like the bravery of these guys. So a lot of them who were interviewed, who were like exchanged from captivity, they volunteered to drop themselves into Azovstal when Azovstal was already besieged in order to help their brothers, like brothers in combat. And so they volunteered to go to their death, or what they thought was going to be their death. A lot of them were saying like, oh, I'm not scared of death. Like, that's not the problem. They were like, it's just dying in a useless manner that's a problem. Like, one of them was talking about, so he lost his leg. And he lost his leg not even because it got torn off, but basically what ended up happening is he's like a combat medic slash an officer. And there was a blast, and the aftermath of the blast basically smashed him into a wall in the neighboring building. And the wall collapsed onto him. And so he was saying, first of all, when I was laying under the rubble of that metal plate of that wall, I was thinking to myself, what a shitty way to die. And he was like, I decided that I'm not giving up, and I'm not going to die. I'm actually going to make it out of here because like I have to stand up for my country more. Like, this is a joke. Like, dying in combat and like destroying the enemy is fine, but dying under the rubble of a building, that's just pathetic. And so he made it out, but so he had a wound in his leg, and it was a superficial wound, but he only had one tourniquet, and you're supposed to change the tourniquet every 2 hours because otherwise you get like a blood infection, and obviously they did not have the conditions to change the tourniquet. So he ended up losing his leg to a blood infection. Another thing that they were talking about was like, so they did not have enough painkillers, and one of these guys had his hip was broken, and when they were operating on his hip, he opted out of anesthesia because someone else who will be amputated will need it more, and he was like, oh, I can just deal with it. Anytime they talk about amputations and losing limbs, like two of them lost an eye, most of them lose like legs, some of them lose arms, most of them actually lose a leg. And they're all talking about it like it's just part of, like, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, this is just part of the job. Like, it's fine. And all of them are training to get prosthetics to get back into the battlefield. They're like, yeah, no, I mean, like, this is nothing. It's fine. Like, this is expected. Like, this is just what comes with the job, and you're just going to understand it. They're like, we're professional military. This is our job. And this is what happens in our job. There was this one soldier that I was absolutely astonished by. So his name is Torque, or I guess like his call name is Torque. And he was in Mariupol, in the city, not in Azovstal. And he was defending Mariupol. He was from the 36th Marine Brigade, and the brigade that was supposed to meet Azov in Azovstal. And some of them got captured, some of them got killed, and some of them made it to Azovstal. So what happened to him is, in combat, his leg got wounded incredibly. Like, he broke his leg in like a manner in which he was describing it, and it was basically like facing the other way. Like, his leg was so broken that it wasn't like he couldn't even like snap it into the right position. Somehow he managed to get onto a BTR of other soldiers that were going to Azovstal. And he was sitting on top of the vehicle because there were no spots. And he was like, yeah, while we were driving, it was chaotic because Russians were shelling, there were snipers, there was all this stuff, so they were kind of like had to swirl. And his leg that was already broken hit a tree, and he broke it in another spot while it was already broken to the point of no tomorrow. Then their then the bridge got blown up in front of them, and their BTR fell into the water, and the majority of the unit that was in that BTR died because they drowned. He somehow, because he was on top of the vehicle, he floated up, and he swam to the shore under the bridge with some other people that survived. And as they were trying to get to Azovstal, he was like, listen, guys, I am going to be a problem for you because I can't walk. So you should go to Azovstal, and you should let my battalion know that I'm still here. So if someone of them wants to come get me, they could get me. They were like, we're not going to leave you. And so he, with a broken freaking leg, He crawled under the bridge to Azovstal. Mind you, that is like a kilometer. So that's like 2.5 miles that these people crawled in the trenches, wet, in the cold, on the ground, while hiding from Russian shells. And they made it to Azovstal. And every one of these soldiers has like similar stories. There was one guy who lost his arm and lost his eye in 2000 during the 2014 invasion. He went and got fitted for the prosthetic. He got like one of those artificial eyes, and he went back to work. And in 2022, he volunteered to drop himself into Azovstal to bring supplies and ammunition and to like help defend it. It was like a suicide mission, basically. And they were talking about like tortures in Alenivka. They were talking about how Russian soldiers were like treating them. They were talking about how they weren't giving them food. They weren't giving them medication. If you wanted to eat, as a wounded person whose leg is like broken, amputated, or whatever, you wouldn't have like any means of moving. And if you wanted to eat, you had to walk 500 meters on your one working foot or on your one working leg to the dining hall that was in a separate building. And then you had to take the food and then you had to bring the food back to the dining hall in your building. And a lot of these soldiers were in such a like crap condition that they like actually shouldn't be walking, that they were dying while like going there. They were saying that there were insane like psychological pressures and tortures. There was more psychological pressure and torture because he was at like the hospital facility, but the people who were in Olenivka were saying that there was all kind of torture, and that what they would do is like they would basically they would try to make them admit, or they would try to make them say that Azov Battalion is Nazis and the commander in chief is like a Nazi leader, and just like a bunch of crazy accusations. And they wanted them to confirm those accusations for their like Russian propaganda TV. And if you didn't confirm, which none of them did, they would take needles and shove them in your open wounds. And the way these guys are talking about it, it's like, like you could look at someone and you could see they're traumatized, right? Like they're not traumatized. This is like what their life is. Like to them, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, this is just what they do to torture us. This is how torture works. And like the like journalist was like, hey, were you trained to withstand torture? Because all of you guys seem to have like withstood it on a professional level. And he's like, no, it's just what you do. Я також з України. Привіт. Зі Львова. And they were like, no, it's just what you do. It's like, what is the other way? Of course we would never like surrender to them. And it's like when you listen to the interviews of these guys, they're all like, they're invincible. They're literally invincible. And it's not like, they lost a limb and they need like PTSD recovery, and it's not like they need to come to terms with it. Like, no. They get there, they get to the hospital, they get like worked on, they get worked on, and they are like, okay, well, I want to go back to the battle. Like, this is just an inconvenience. Like, they're not like, oh my gosh, no, I lost like a limb in the battle. I'm now like, I now have limitations. They're like, nah, it's not a limitation. Where is a prosthetic? Like, I need, like, come on, come on, hurry up. Like, where are prosthetics here? Like, where do I get a prosthetic? So they're literally just like, this is what they expect. Like, they're completely okay with losing limbs. This is just part of their job, and they completely expect it. And it's like, it's quite, I was like astonished. Hi, thank you, Kay. And like their perseverance, their attitude, they're honestly like Azov warriors are truly warriors. Like, they are cyborgs and they are invincible, and they are like, I understand why Russians are so scared of them. They're unstoppable. It's just like these dudes were in combat with, there was one of them who broke his hip and dislocated a disc. And he didn't even know that his hip was broken and that he dislocated a disc. He thought he just got banged on something. And so he continued walking on that broken hip with a dislocated disc and trying to get himself to walk through the pain. Then when he got exchanged from the captivity on May 30th, he went back to work on June 3rd. Like, this is Batman in real life. Like, I'm not even joking. This is like, these dudes are Like just listening to them, you're like, wow, I would not want to find you on the battlefield. Like I'd be freaking terrified. Most of them were saying that they're totally okay with dying because again, it's a part of the job. But when they're in a situation in which in which they're like facing death, right? One of them was saying, well, it's kind of like simple math that you do in your head. In your head, you think to yourself, okay, am I ready to die right now? Like it's a situation in which it's really hard to climb out. Like let's say you're like under the rubble or like you've been heavily wounded, right? And like you need to make that choice whether you like bleed out basically or whether you try to save yourself. And they all say that like, well, it's simple math. How much have you done to stop the enemy? If you could do more, if by climbing out right now you can actually accomplish more and take one of them out, two of them out, three of them out, however many of them out, you get up and you persevere. And they're like, well, if you're actually in a situation in which like you getting out of here is only going to put your like comrades in danger and it's not going to actually like accomplish anything, then okay, sure, like if you can't get out, you can get out. They're like, but if you can still serve your country, you gotta get a way out. And that's their thing. It's like they're not trying to like survive because they want to survive or they're like scared of death. It's just more of like, well, there is more use that my country can get out of me. And the crazy thing is like I thought that they had some maybe like deep psychological training to like get to that level, which they do. They just have deep psychological training that explains to them basically that like, hey, this is the type of job where you might end up without both legs or both arms or without both eyes, or I don't know, like you might literally not come back and you got to be okay with it. And but the way that they recruit Azov basically is that like you got to be that type of dude. You gotta be the type of dude who wants to fight for their country, for your country. Like you can't be the type of dude who's like, oh, I want to like try out military. Maybe this is for me. Like no, they're all professional military. They all said that they went into Azov after 2014 invasion. The second most of them go to the army the second they turn 18. It's like it's crazy. These guys are like go on YouTube and look up Azov interviews, and there is like Radio Svoboda has some, Espresso has some, Azov Media has some. I was watching so many yesterday, like Tork Tork. He is like the one who broke his leg in like multiple places and was like crawling out and stuff like that. He is freaking insanely incredible. All of them are. All of them are. And the funny thing is that, like, when they talk about their accomplishments like this, it's like, oh my gosh, it's part of the job. But when they talk about the regular military, they're like, oh my gosh, this guy, he was so brave. He did this, this, and that. So like they don't see their actions as bravery. They see it as something that they just do. But when you talk about other battalions, they're like, oh yeah, no, that was a brave thing to do. Admirable. And it's like, okay. Thank you, Bea. Yeah. The UK did not import fuel from Russia for the first time, according to Sky News. Imports of goods also fell to £33 million in June, the lowest level since records began in January 1997, according to the Office for National Statistics. Yay! Thank you, UK. Oh, Mikhailo Podolyak. Massive shelling of Ukraine on Independence Day, another manifestation of Russian barbarians' helplessness and terrorist nature after 6 months of shame. It is still not clear that trying to intimidate Ukrainians is a losing option. Better think about the final gesture of goodwill. Ukrainians won more than 30 medals and set a record in powerlifting at the Warrior Games in the United States. 32 athletes from Ukraine came to the competition, both veterans and active servicemen who were injured. Traveling to Europe is not a right, but a privilege, and the responsibility lies within the citizens of a country that is at war, Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas said. As a rule, only residents of Moscow and St. Petersburg can afford to travel to the EU, which to a greater extent than other residents of Russia can influence the decisions of the Kremlin, but do not do this, Kallas said. That is exactly what I say. Rich Russians have influence, but they don't do anything. Among the dead as a result of an enemy attack on the village of Chaplina in the Dnipropetrovsk region are 2 children. According to the head of the Dnipropetrovsk Regional State Administration, Valentin Reznichenko, the night in the region was extremely difficult with constant shelling and casualties. The Russian army fired on 4 districts and rescuers continue to work at the site of the terrorist attack in Chaplina. Ah, thank you, Todd. Thank you so much. Canada intends to return 5 turbines for Nord Stream to Germany, which remained under repair in Montreal. The head of the country's foreign policy department, Melanie Joly, in an interview with the Canadian CBC television channel, "We have made this decision. This is exactly what Germany asked us to do," Joly said. In July, the Canadian government gave permission to send 6 turbines that were undergoing maintenance in Montreal to Germany for further transfer to Gazprom. Oh, hi, Colin. But then only one of the Siemens turbines was sent to Germany, after which Gazprom refused to take the turbine from Germany, citing to the imposed anti-Russian sanctions. The U.S. State Department called the plans of the invaders to hold a trial against the Azov military a mockery of justice. Thank you, Colin. Tonight, the enemy launched an attack on the Kyiv region. At least 2 enemy missiles hit infrastructure in the Vyzhrod region. Thanks to timely preventative measures, the casualties were avoided. The building sustained minor damage, but the fire was avoided. Thank you so much, Colin. The police are currently conducting a survey on the area in order to identify other impact sites. This is important. The armed forces stopped the offensive of the occupiers in 3 directions, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. The Ukrainian military stopped the advance of the Russian invaders in the Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Slavyansk directions. The enemy lost personnel and retreated. In the Novopavlivsk, Zaporizhia, Pivdenny Bugh, Kharkiv, and Kramatorsk directions, the invaders are continuously shelling our positions and civilian infrastructure from tanks, cannon and rocket artillery, and aviation. Thank you, Nicole. Also, hi, Granny and me. We have a new Twitch. We have someone new watching on Twitch, so if you're still here, welcome. And I hope you enjoy the newscast. Satellite imagery from August 21st clearly showed that Russia maintains a significant military presence at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, with armored personnel carriers deployed within 60 meters of reactor number 5, British intelligence said. Let me remind you, Zaporizhia nuclear power plant has 6 reactors and 2 being built, the largest nuclear power plant in the whole of Europe. Hi! The parliaments of 7 EU countries called for new sanctions against Russia, including visa ones. The statement was signed by the heads of the foreign affairs committees of the parliaments of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland, Poland, the Czech Republic, and Denmark. They call on the community to urgently strengthen and use comprehensive sanctions against the Russian Federation to stop the ability of the Russian army to continue its aggression. Occupiers tow barges near Antonievsky Bridge in Kherson. They want to make an alternative crossing. Oh yeah, of course, because the floaties didn't work, the bridge was destroyed by the AFU numerous times. I love how they keep trying to make alternative crossings. So first of all, that Antonievsky Bridge in Kherson is really important for them to bring their ammo and to bring their like personnel and stuff like that, and to bring reconnaissance. And it's funny that they keep trying to like renew this bridge that we destroyed, because like, okay, if we destroyed an actual bridge, you think we're not going to destroy a barge or like a floaty? Are you joking? Like, you're just making yourselves targets. They're put in one line. They will try to make an alternative transition, said local journalist Konstantin Rozhenko. Russian invaders continue to storm residential buildings in Mykolaiv. Dmytro Palenchuk, the press secretary of the Mykolaiv Regional Military Administration, showed the consequences of one of the attacks. Fortunately, the owner was not at home and there were no injured. This is what the consequence looks like. It's like fully ruined. Hi, Carrie. Alexander Lukashenko gave Belarus for the needs of Russia. The US Embassy said they noted that due to attempts to maintain power in the country, the dictator undermined the sovereignty of the Republic of Belarus and put the country's territory, its airspace, and infrastructure at the service of the military needs of the Russian Federation. So basically, Belarus is now an occupied territory by Russia as well, and Belarus is now just another state of Russia. Norway has taken away from Russia the role of the largest supplier of gas in Europe. This is reported by Business Insider. Oslo also assures that they are going to extract the maximum volumes of gas in the coming years. Spain sent anti-aircraft battery ammunition and armored cars to Ukraine. El País reports with references to the Spanish Ministry of Defense. In the Zaporizhia region, Russian invaders set fire to a forest in the vicinity of Enerhodar. However, yesterday on the shore of Enerhodar, the armed forces of Ukraine destroyed 1,500 invaders. No, Amber, Belarus has not always been occupied. Belarus is just, it's a little bit different. Belarus was its own country with its own dictator who just really liked Putin and was cooperating with Putin, and now it looks like he just completely, it doesn't look like they literally admitted it. They gave Belarus to the needs of Russia, so whatever Russia needs, they can do on the territory of Belarus without asking. Proxy state, literally. Several enemies firing positions, 2 officers, howitzers, and MLRS were destroyed. At the same time, the number of wounded is even greater than those killed. That's the enemy wounded soldiers in Enerhodar near Zaporizhia NPP. Russia on the Independence Day of Ukraine shelled Ukraine. Russia on the Independence Day of Ukraine lifted their planes into the air 200 times. 8 Kh-22 missiles were hit in the regions. The Air Force Command said the Russians' plan was to give the Ukrainians a nightmare and keep them on their toes on Independence Day, just ruining the holiday. Taiwan's state-owned power company, Taipower, has made the final payment for Russian coal under an agreement signed before the war in Ukraine and will not enter into a new sales contract with Russia. 200,000 tons of grain were exported from the Luhansk region to Russia, said the head of the Regional Development Department of Ukraine, Serhiy Haidai. According to farmers who were forced to remain in the occupied territory, the situation in the region's agriculture is approaching catastrophic. Enerhoatom, all power units were disconnected from the power grid for the first time in the history of the Zaporizhia NPP. As a result of hostilities in the area of the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, the last line of communication with the power system of Ukraine was stopped twice. Now the nuclear power plant provides its power needs through the line of a neighboring thermal power plant. Enerhodar was completely left without electricity and water, the mayor of the city. Dmytro Orlov confirms reports that as a result of enemy shelling, the city was on the verge of a humanitarian catastrophe. According to him, now it turns out how critical the situation is. Regarding the further work of ZNPP, he said he was waiting for an official comment from Enerhoatom. Enerhoatom is basically the nuclear energy company in Ukraine. Russian Secretary Antony Blinken said Russian missile strike on a train station full of civilians in Ukraine fits a pattern of atrocities. We will continue together with partners from around the world to stand with Ukraine and seek accountability for Russian officials. Fits into a series of atrocities, Blinken responded to Russia's missile attack on Chaplina. The US Secretary of State stressed that his country, together with partners, will seek to hold Russian officials accountable and support Ukraine. So this is very similar to what happened in Zhytomyr a while ago, right? They struck a railroad station with a lot of civilians. The live started 40 minutes ago. At night, the headquarters of the invaders was blown up near the temporarily occupied Melitopol in the Zaporizhia region. It was there that the invaders were preparing for a pseudo-referendum and were issuing invalid passports. Take a look at what their base looks like now. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation recognized its attack in Chaplina as always talking nonsense about the destruction of military units of the armed forces of Ukraine. They stated that they had struck with an Iskander missile, destroying more than 200 military units of the armed forces of Ukraine and 10 units of military equipment that were heading to Donbass. Recall that as a result of the shelling of the residential sector and the railway station, 25 people were killed, 2 of them children. The photo shows the civilian train on fire due to the shelling. Sure, this is, a military base, of course. Everything is a military base when Russians are trying to cover up for their crimes. The Association of Journalists of Poland demands to judge the main propagandists of the Russian Federation as war criminals. In particular, Polish journalists say that the responsibility for crimes committed against the civilian population of Ukraine should be borne not only by bandits in Russian uniforms, but also by the mouthpieces of the Kremlin who pretend to be journalists. The association's statement notes that the main propagandists of the Russian Federation, Margarita Simonyan, Vladimir Solovyov, Dmitry Kiselyov, and Olga Skabeyeva, should face trial as war criminals after the fall of the dictator's regime in Russia. I fully agree with that because they're the people who make up the worst propaganda, and they're the people who spread it, and they're the people who basically contribute to the hate of Ukrainians, and they're the people who contribute to warped history. They're the people who contribute to the whole Nazi rhetoric. They're the people who directly are just as responsible for basically killing Ukrainians and spewing hate and promoting fascism. Shmyhal will visit Berlin in early September and meet with Steinmeier, according to Bild. The meeting will take place at the residence of the head of state, Bellevue Palace. There is no information yet about Shmyhal's other meetings in Berlin. Scholz visited the Ukrainian military at a training ground in Germany and promised more weapons, Bild reports. The chancellor confirmed that Germany would continue to supply Ukraine with heavy weapon systems. He named self-propelled howitzers, multiple launch rockets systems, and IRIS-T air defense systems. This is what Scholz in the training base looks like, or near the training base looks like. Oh, look at how proud. Look at how proud. Jesus Christ. So proud. Russian ships with 28 ready-to-launch missiles are on duty in the Black Sea. Speaker of the Odessa Regional Military Administration, Serhiy Bratchuk. The Russian Federation deployed about 400 combat aircraft and 360 helicopters to the border with Ukraine, including more than 150 attack helicopters. Thank you, Julie. Over the past 24 hours, a lot of enemy aviation activity has been recorded in Ukraine. About 200 sorties were made yesterday, Yuri Ignat, a representative of the Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, said. By the end of the year, Ukrainians will receive good news about the situation at the front, but it's hard to say when the war will end. This was announced by Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov. I'm an optimist, or well-informed, so I have certain positive hopes that this year there will be good, pleasant news for the entire Ukrainian society and the world. It's important for people to see victory. Just as a reminder, because I'm very proud, but Alexei Reznikov is a family friend of ours. My grandfather was practically like helping raise him because Alexei Reznikov's, our defense minister's dad, was one of my grandfather's best friends. He calls my grandfather Uncle Slava, and my mom grew up with him and they were playing together when they were kids. And Alexei Reznikov was the one to physically award my grandfather with a presidential award for his contributions to the physical education of soldiers and the physical fitness of soldiers in Ukraine. And when he was giving my grandpa the award from Zelensky, he did not give it to my grandpa's name, patronymic, and last name. He literally said, "Here you go, Uncle Slavik." And then he was like, because it was on stage at like a professional event, and then he was like, I mean, and then called my grandfather by his real name, which I find very sweet. And then this is Reznikov, and he's wearing a Send Javelin patch on his shoulder. And something that I've noticed a couple of days ago is Send Javelin follows me on Instagram. And I followed them back because I literally didn't realize they followed me. But yeah, Send Javelin follows me on Instagram, which is really cool. And I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool. And for those of you who missed it, which a lot of you might have, but again, I'm too proud of it. So on Independence Day, so yesterday, Zelensky released a video on his page. Zelensky released a video on his page, and that video, a brief history video, and that video is voiced over by me. Oh my god, thank you, Todd, that was so pretty. Thank you so much. I love that. So pretty. But yeah, so Zelensky released a video, and that video is, the voiceover is done by me. And actually, right after I am going to be done with the news today, I need to go and record a demo voiceover for another video. The European Union strongly condemns the Russian missile strike at Chaplina in the Dnipropetrovsk region. The EU strongly condemns another heinous attack by Russia on civilians in Chaplina on the Independence Day of Ukraine. Those responsible for Russian rocket terror will be held accountable, tweeted High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Joseph Borrell. Operational Command South. The armed forces of Ukraine destroyed an ammunition depot in the Kherson region. The defenders of Ukraine destroyed a Russian ammunition depot in Novokakhovka, Kherson region, as well as command posts of the enemy's tactical artillery groups in 2 districts. The elimination of 7 Russian soldiers and the destruction of self-propelled artillery and vehicles have also been confirmed. Ukraine has already returned 53 children from Russia, Minister of Reintegration of Temporarily Occupied Territories Irina Vereshchuk. Ukraine has already been able to return 53 children from Russia and is preparing lawsuits against the Russian Federation over the so-called adoption of abducted and removed Ukrainian children. Vereshchuk added that the work of litigation is also underway. The Ministry of Reintegration records cases of the so-called adoption of Ukrainian children in Russia to sue and demand to bring Russia accountable, as it is a crime against our state, against our children, the minister emphasized. Thank you, Julie. The offensive momentum of the Russian army in Donbass is exhausted due to Russia's inability to convert minor tactical successes into operational ones. Its attacks around Bakhmut and Avdiivka have stalled and will probably no longer bring significant results. Institute for the Study of the War. Also, I'm going to save this and I'm going to play this on YouTube because it's 1.5 minutes long, and you know that it's one of those Ukraine Now videos, which I'm also supposed to talk to a representative from Ukraine Now, which I would be very, 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 very excited. Oh, hi! Hi, 300! How are you? I am so excited to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. But I want to send this to myself. Thank you. And that's like a little, oh my gosh, those doggies are so cute. I still can't believe they didn't make a French Bulldog, right? How dare they? But they have a pug, which is close enough to Cindy. Close enough to Cindy. Not quite Cindy, but close enough. But so I was going to say, how are you? Oh, thank you for the golden retriever too. It's so cute. I love those little doggos. They're so adorable. But so I'm going to mirror the video, and so I'm supposed to talk to the representative of Ukraine now, like one of the upcoming days. Oh, lost connection? Why? Wait. Oh, okay. So I'm supposed to talk to a representative of Ukraine now, and I'm supposed to talk to them about a potential partnership, and I would love to partner up with them because Ukraine now is the video that I usually is the place where I show you videos from these. So this is Ukraine now, and they reached out to me, and so I'm really excited to talk to them actually. But okay. Hi, Jennifer. It's much better on YouTube. Hi, Betty. Oh, hi, Bathy. Bathy. Okay. So this was the video. I do prefer to show it on YouTube because it just makes more sense, and it definitely YouTube has better quality for this. But it is what it is. So, okay. So then let me remove this. Heavy fires occur in Mariupol. Occupation authorities are ignoring the problem, advisor to the mayor of Mariupol, Petro Andrushenko. The fire in one of the city neighborhoods could not be extinguished immediately due to a lack of water. The fire is now only spreading because of the wind. The city is covered with smoke. The fire spread to a school and then it spread to residential buildings. No one has started to extinguish the fire. No, my phone's not getting hot. The thing that happened here was that if I'm using the gimbal tripod and then I'm also using a charger, the charger basically stands in the way of the gimbal, and so the gimbal loses balance. But these are fires in Mariupol, a city that has already struggled through so much that this is insane. They don't need any more torture and death. This is the smoke that the city is covered in, which is quite insane as well. Bloomberg, the IAEA mission plans to visit the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant by the 5th of September. Members of the mission will include security experts who normally are not involved in such visits. Both nuclear specialists and safety and security specialists plan to visit the plant. Initially, the IAEA planned to visit the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant only to make sure that the stocks of enriched uranium had not disappeared from the plant during the war. However, the appearance of security specialists among the members of the mission may indicate that the IAEA is also planning to analyze the consequences of the ZNPP shelling, which can be used to determine the perpetrators of the shelling. President Zelensky had a meeting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Italy, Luigi Di Maio, Office of the President of Ukraine. The head of the state thanked Italy for its financial and defense support, as well as for its support of Ukraine's independence and sovereignty. British Secretary of State for Defense: the Russian army has lost more than 80,000 servicemen in Ukraine, killed, wounded, and deserters. That's 80,000 in 6 months compared to 15,000 they lost in 10 years in Afghanistan, Ben Wallace noted. The Secretary of State for Defense added that Russia is currently in a very fragile position. According to him, the progress of the Russian Federation can be measured in meters per week, not in miles. Human Rights Watch. Ukraine is the only country where Russian forces use cluster munitions. At least 689 civilians were affected by cluster munitions between February and July, according to the Global Cluster Munition Monitor 2022 report by Human Rights Watch. The report notes that Russia has used cluster munitions hundreds of times in at least 10 of Ukraine's 24 regions. Large numbers of cluster munitions do not explode immediately, but can maim and kill residents for years until they're diffused and destroyed. A Human Rights Watch investigation in Kharkiv revealed that in May and June, Russian forces fired cluster munitions that damaged residential buildings, city streets and parks, a maternity clinic, and a cultural center. Delphi. The last element of the Soviet memorial complex was dismantled in the Latvian capital. A 79-meter Soviet obelisk of the memorial complex in Victory Park was dismantled in Riga. The obelisk fell into a pool, causing a standing ovation from the crowd. The demolition of all elements of the memorial lasted 3 days. Here is what it looks like. Beautiful. I could watch it on repeat all day. So this is a memorial in Victory Park in Riga. It's a Soviet memorial to the Soviet Army. And bye-bye. Bye-bye forever. The Emperor of Japan wrote a letter to Zelensky. Thank you, Kay. Office of the President of Ukraine. Hi, Rendivius. Are you new here? The Office of the President reported the Ambassador of Japan to Ukraine, Kuninori Matsuda, handed a congratulatory letter by His Majesty, the Emperor of Japan, Naruhito, addressed to the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, on the occasion of the 31st anniversary of the restoration of independence of Ukraine, which is really cool. See, shoot is the motto of the Ukrainian warriors and defenders. Not a moment of doubt, only towards victory. Oh, nice to see you, Rendivius. Well, welcome to the channel. Usually I do the news every day at 2 p.m. Eastern, and I also do brief lives to just catch up and talk. I have a TikTok channel with lots of history and geopolitics on it, and sort of context to this invasion and a lot of explanations, also breakdown of current events. And I'm here every day with a live, normally at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard, but I'm in Chicago for the next 3 days, and I am a little busy with the Ukrainian embassy, so I am going to be going live at random times that I hope I will have time to let you guys know about before it happens, but might be last minute and might be in the evening mostly. And welcome. Well, thank you for stopping by, and I'm really happy to see you here, and I hope you stick around. Okay, more than 95 streets in Kyiv associated with Russia and the Soviet past have been renamed. City Mayor Vitaly Klitschko. No, I don't work at the Ukrainian embassy, but I'm here on my personal business with the Ukrainian embassy. I am, however, working with United 24 now, and I'm working with United 24, and I do voiceovers for their history rubrics. More than 95 streets in Kyiv associated with Russia and the Soviet past have been renamed. City Mayor Vitaly Klitschko. The Ukrainian Insurgent Army UPA Heroes Square, Heroes of Mariupol Street, and Azov Regiment Street appeared in the city. The new names, initiated and supported by the public during the vote, should perpetuate the memory of outstanding historical events in Ukraine, as well as famous figures and heroes who glorified Ukraine and fought for its independence, in particular in the modern Russian-Ukrainian War. This is an important step towards reducing false manipulation and influence of the Russian aggressor on the interpretation of our history, the mayor said. Deputies considered a list of 134 sites at the meeting, but several were sent for revision. So today, what ended up happening is we have the Moscow Street in Kyiv, and it got renamed to the London Street, because the capital of Great Britain and the capital of England, well, the capital of England that also serves as the capital of Great Britain, has given us much more support in this war. Well, actually, a lot of support in this war, and therefore they deserve to be commemorated in our history. However, Moscow does not. So there are a lot of things like that. Then the Red Army Street got renamed into the Azov Battalion Street. So it's there is a lot of amazing changes like that. Archival footage of the Ukrainian military disembarking from an Mi-8 helicopter in the port of Mariupol. Ukraine will never forget your feat. So this is actually from there is a question on Twitch, and it says, what is UN44? That is, if I'm typing that correctly, I might not have heard you correctly. United 24 is the organization created by our President Zelensky and our Minister of Cyber Integration, Fedorov. And you can go on their website, you can donate through their website. They break down all the different places you can donate to, and you can choose between humanitarian, army, and other means of donation. Also, they explain a lot about Ukraine, its history. They do a lot of educational stuff. And so something that I'm incredibly proud of is my voice has been posted on Volodymyr Zelensky's page yesterday on the Independence Day, and you can find it there. It's the history video about Ukraine's fight for independence. So you can check it out there. But yeah, and I'm currently today going to be working on another one that's going to come in the next week, I want to say. Okay, so this is archival footage of the Ukrainian military disembarking from an Mi-8 helicopter in the port of Mariupol. Thank you. Thank you for following. Welcome to our community. Yeah, so that is some tremendous work that they did, and this is basically what I was talking about today. I was talking about the Azov military disembarking from Mi-8s with extra ammunition and supplies, and that is the song. That is a song from Okran Erze. It's called Miesto Marie, and it is a song written about Mariupol. The UK will help Ukraine rebuild transport infrastructure. Ministry of Infrastructure of Ukraine. The Minister of Infrastructure of Ukraine and the British Department for Infrastructure have signed a joint action plan to help rebuild Ukraine's transport network, within which London offers funds, engineering expertise, and vehicles. According to the adopted plan, the UK agrees to provide expertise from British private organizations. It will transfer 5 buses to improve the mobility of the Ukrainian population and purchase equipment to restore critical grain export routes. Thank you for following, Punk Unknown. Welcome to our community. Have you ever seen the loading process of ammunition? This is what it looks like. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for watching in both places. So yeah, that's a very interesting thing to see. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the Russian occupiers attempted to advance in the Kharkiv, Sloviansk, Bakhmut, and Avdiivka directions. Ukrainian soldiers suppressed the invaders' efforts to break through the defense of the armed forces of Ukraine. The Guardian pointed out the main theme of the issue with the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. The risks of an accident at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. The head of the Energoatom, Petro Kotin, told the publication that Russia had developed a detailed plan to disconnect the ZNPP from Ukraine's energy resources. And you can read the frontline article at the Guardian's page online. The article that I'm talking about is called Warning of Catastrophe at Ukraine Nuclear Power Plant. So if you would like to read about it, it's a good article. Please go ahead and give it a read. I'm not going to do that on live just because it is a little too long. And then this is the Armed Forces of Ukraine soldier. He has a little bird that's been like hanging out with him, which I find it so cute that all of our all of our warriors seem to have like pets that they have adopted on the front lines, whether it be cats or dogs or literally anything else. And a lot of them have some like pets that you wouldn't expect, like a bird pal that just comes over and hangs out. One of them adopted a little mouse, and he was like feeding it, and then he left a note for the next person who's going to be in his trenches to not do anything to the mouse and to feed her, because when you feed her, she treats you well. Orikhiv, Zaporizhia region once again came under massive artillery fire from the Russian military. According to the regional military administration, the 17-year-old boy suffered serious injuries and died on the way to the hospital. A woman was also injured nearby in the village. That is horrific. For 6 months of a full-scale war against Ukraine, Russia lost 12,142 pieces of equipment worth $16.56 billion, excluding missiles, says Forbes. The turning point of the war in Ukraine has already begun. Confirmation of this is the explosions in the annexed Crimea. The head of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense, Kirill Budanov, on the air of a telethon. According to him, the Russians have begun to realize that their army is not as strong as they thought, and the air defense systems are not as good. Therefore, the Russian army is not able to protect the temporarily occupied Ukrainian territory. This is not at all the second army of the world, and not even the fourth. And retribution will come. The understanding that there will be retribution comes to people when they personally begin to see and feel that war is not somewhere in some part of the world, but in their country. Therefore, the turning point has already begun, Budanov said. So there were a lot of reports that the turning point is going to be in August, and we were all like, yeah, okay, well, we don't know. They were talking about turning points so many times at this point that like, oh, another turning point, but they were actually right. This is this is an actual turning point. And I think that when Reznikov said that we're going to start regaining territories by end of August, like large territories like Kherson, and in September we're going to be taking them full force, I think that might be happening. Since March, the armed forces of Ukraine have recaptured a territory the size of Denmark from the Russians. Russian forces are unable to turn limited tactical gains into broader operational gains, and their offensive in eastern Ukraine has culminated, experts say. According to the Institute for the Study of War, Russian forces carried out limited ground attacks in the direction of Izum, Bakhmut, Donetsk, and in the Kherson region. Also, according to researchers, the puppet occupation power of Russia continues to face party and internal challenges in the implementation of occupation programs. Total Russian losses in manpower up to now amount to 45,850, and that is just 200. And 200 means not injured, but I just don't want to say the word because TikTok loves to judge that word. So I'd rather safe than sorry. Russian troops shelled 58 settlements of Ukraine on Independence Day. Update: Enerhodar is beginning to restore power supply, so that's Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation confirmed the attack on the railway station in Choplino, which we were talking about. The US State Department, on the trial of prisoners of war defenders of Azovstal, commented, "This is a mockery of justice." According to State Department spokesman Ned Price, the Kremlin is trying to absolve itself of responsibility for an aggressive war by tribunals against the brave defenders of Ukraine. In a released State Department statement, Price recalled that all military personnel who are included in the armed forces of Ukraine are entitled to the status of prisoners of war and the right to protection in accordance with the Geneva Convention. The United States strongly condemns the lynching of Ukrainian heroes and calls on Moscow to fulfill its obligations under international law, the State Department said. Also, Punk says on Twitch, unalived or sunflower fertilizer. Actually, I love sunflower fertilizer. Genuinely, it's like soil fertilizer for the, well, I mean, also, to be fair, 200 is the term for unalived and 300. Oh my god! Kay, that's so pretty. Wait, I'm sorry, I've never seen those before, and they had peonies. Those are so pretty. I feel like I look so silly anytime I see like a new animation that I've never seen before. But that was so pretty. That was so pretty. I'm so sorry. That was really beautiful. Thank you, Kay. I swear I love all of them, but sometimes there are just new ones that I've never seen before. And I was just like, because they're pretty. As a graphic designer, I also do appreciate animations a lot, and I think they're very well done. That's like one of the things that I will give to TikTok. Their animations are really beautiful. So yes, thank you very much. That was very sweet. No, you didn't throw me off. I was just like, oh my god. But yeah, what I was saying is like the term for unalived is 200 and the term for injured is 300. So I can also say 200 soldiers, like Russian 200 soldiers or Russian 300 soldiers. Okay, the Russian aerospace forces deployed about 400 aircraft and about 350 helicopters to the borders of Ukraine, of which more than 150 are attack helicopters. Yeah, let me see. Zelensky spoke with the US President Joe Biden. Mr. Zelensky thanked him for his help and discussed further steps towards defeating Russia. The leaders of Ukraine and the United States also discussed the importance of holding the Russian Federation accountable for war crimes. 6 months of war in Ukraine in 30 seconds. Russian army moved at the very beginning of a full-scale offensive, and how it's advanced has slowed down significantly now. According to some information, Russia wants to drag out the war until winter. Well, they can want whatever they want, but that means very little because we are quite literally prevailing in everything right now. Choplino is the place where Russia struck the railway station, and this is a video of a man who cries over the body of his son. It is impossible to look at this without tears. Russia is a terrorist country and must answer for everything it has done, according to this article. The video is not recommended for viewing by impressionable people. This is what it looks like. I'm going to show it. He was just at home.
Там розвалля шукали, це все, він тут лежав. Ніхто не знав, що він тут лежить. Ніхто не знав. Думали, може на кришу викрикнули, а виходить, це якби з самого початку час. Час він тут лежав, ніхто не знав, що він тут лежить. А без двоє дітей.
Yeah, it's incredibly. And his dad is saying, you know, we've been looking for him. We thought that maybe the blast had thrown him to the roof, and he has been laying here for an hour, and nobody knew that he was laying here. And he's like, what if we could have done something if we found him earlier? And so he's, yeah. Meanwhile, you know, Russian moms and dads just say, we're gonna birth some new ones. Evening address of Volodymyr Zelensky. Today, for the first time in history, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant stopped. The emergency protection of the power units worked. After the last working line of the plant's power returned to the energy system of Ukraine was damaged as a result of Russian shelling. Diesel generators were immediately activated to provide energy to the station itself to support it after the shutdown. The world must understand what a threat this is. If the diesel generators did not turn on, if the automation and our station staff did not work after the blackout, then we would already be forced to overcome the consequences of the radiation accident. Russia has put Ukraine and all Europeans one step away from a radiation disaster. The south of Ukraine, the occupied regions, is already in a state of humanitarian disaster. Russia has brought degradation to our land, the likes of which have never been seen here. I want to assure all Ukrainians, we're doing everything to prevent an emergency scenario, but it depends not only on our state. The key thing is that such international pressure is needed that will force the occupiers to immediately withdraw from the territory of the Zaporizhzhia NPP. The IAEA and other international organizations must act much faster than now. Every minute that the Russian military stays at the nuclear plant is a risk for a global radiation disaster. In the temporarily occupied Kherson, the Russians are trying to gather the necessary number of people to hold a referendum, but their attempts fail. Journalists of Ukraine Now spoke with a displaced person who recently left Kherson. According to him, the invaders found out that only 5% of Kherson residents are ready to come to the so-called polling stations. And this is taking into the account the fact that 70% of Kherson residents have already left the city. Now in Kherson, collaborators with a group of 2-3 women under the pretext of connecting people to electricity and gas are conducting a population census to establish the real number of people in the city. Zaporizhzhia NPP has resumed connection to the Ukrainian energy system, but all 6 power units remain disconnected. It is noted that ZNPP remains connected to the line from a nearby thermal power plant, which can provide backup electricity. Also, 2 operating units of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant were disconnected from the power grid and their emergency protection systems were triggered, while all security systems remained operational. IAEA may visit Zaporizhzhia in late August, early September. And this is all that I have for the news today. This is all that I have for Ukraine news today. So I hope that you guys have taken some important information out of here, and I hope that thank you for being here, Punk. And I hope that these news streams are useful. I'm sorry that I can't stay very long today afterwards because I do have a couple of things to finish. I'm still working in the freaking Chernobyl nuclear power plant explosion video, but maybe if I don't pass out, I might finish it today. It's been like a roller coaster of a couple of days, so I really hope that oh my gosh, thank you, Rosalind. That's really beautiful. I do love those swans, and thank you guys. You're so kind and so sweet with all of your support to Ukraine and to me, and I'm really grateful to you. And I just wanted to remind you that this platform wouldn't exist, and as many people wouldn't be able to hear as much about Ukraine if it wasn't for you guys. All right, I will see you tomorrow for more news. For now, I'm gonna go try to finish the things that I need to finish, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys. Ah, thank you, Kay. You're so sweet. Thank you. And Kay, have a good day, right? Because 9:50 a.m. And thank you, Gab. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Charles. Not a botter. And bye. I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay, let me do YouTube first.